This is the perfect RIA, in case you didn't know. Bringing you all the strategies to help your business grow. Are you happy? Are you satisfied? Are you hanging on the edge of your seat? Sit back and listen in while you feel the beat, yeah. Another myth bites the dust.
Welcome back, TPR Nation, to an amazing follow-up Friday episode about being the best. Now, if you stay tuned on Monday, Jarvis and I spent some time going through being the best, and not from an ego standpoint, from a pure confidence standpoint. Now, we wanted to take a couple action items away from that and talk about that, but we also got a question in the meantime that came in, Jarvis, about being the best. But how do you be the best when you can barely keep your head above water?
That's right. So many advisors say, boy, I don't have time to join the Backstage Pass and Invictus because I'm just trying to survive. I have too many things going on. And there's a lot of things. One, I would say go back and listen to all the episodes of the podcast because we talk about it quite a bit. But the most important thing you can do is have an intentional week, right? Rules of success, be intentional. And that involves time blocking out a week. Micah, early on in my career, I blocked off the first half of Monday mornings was my learning time. That is the time when I would read newsletters, when I would study things, when I'd take CE exams. Not that that's learning, but you need to have time blocked out. When am I going to become better than I am right now? And if you're waiting for that time to appear, it will never appear, right? There will never be time. You have to make time.
Absolutely. And as we said in the podcast, I just love saying this, time is my favorite thing because it is our great equalizer. Everyone has the same amount of time. And for me, this is a very empowering thing because when I look at Ron Carson, right? When I look at Bill Gates, when I look at Jeff Bezos, right? When I look at all these people, you're like, guess what? They put their pants on one leg at a time, just like I do. And they all have the same 24 hours in the day. And look at what they can create inside of that time. So clearly it's possible. My rule, this is my own head trash. If only one person can do it, okay, that's a superpower. But if at least two people can do it, that means I can do it too. So if at least two people can do these things, then clearly it is possible for me to learn and accomplish this same skill. And about time blocking, oh my gosh, this is huge. You absolutely have to do that.
Mike, is this our segue into TPR space program? Like, because we've got 3 billionaires that have launched into space, the TPR space program.
Well, spoiler alert, we're going to do that for 2022. But since you announced that,
it'll be our next mastermind.
Mastermind will be in space.
But Mike, you're spot on. You've got to be intentional about that. We've all got the same amount of time. And just say, boy, if I'm going to be the best, I'm going to put these 2 hours a week on whatever time they are. They're non-negotiable. No matter what happens, I'm going to spend that time to be the best.
And really, the other thing we were talking about on Monday to refocus on, Jarvis, before we get into those action items, is if you are not going to be the best, you are doing a disservice to your clients. Because if your desire to be mediocre, if your desire is to be crappy, right, then how does that sales pitch go? Well, Mr. and Mrs. Client, I am the cheapest, but I'm also the crappiest advisor out there, that's going to do a bad job. And none of us want to do that. All of us want to exceed. So you need to come at it from a place of confidence of saying, great, what do you need to do in your niche? And this is the key thing that we talked about on Monday, Jarvis, was really getting into and refining those rules down so that you can be the best. And you're going to refine those rules down by your niche. What is that select group of people that you want to work with that you will be the best advisor at? We talk about this all the time, right? If someone talks about ISOs or talk about, expat rules or anything else, so sorry, I know enough to be really dangerous. I would not be helpful in that area. You want to talk about a retiring federal employee? Ooh, I will go hands down against any other advisor out there. I think I am the best advisor out there that understands these benefits and can apply them successfully for federal employees.
Yeah, and not to get too carried away with this, but what if a prospect comes in and says, boy, I've got a lot of knee pain. I wonder if you could recommend some orthopedic treatment for me. Of course you would say, no, I don't do orthopedics here, right? I'm a financial planner.
What would you do at conference room number 3? You don't do that?
You've got to have that niche and you've got to be solid and say, hey, I'm only the best in this very narrow area. Mike and I can both claim we're the best, but only in this very narrow area. Well, maybe we think in a lot of areas, but financial planning wise, only in a very narrow area.
All right, so let's talk about some action items real fast of things you need to get done this week. Number one, in order to be the best, if you're not the best, you need to find the best, right? This is your first action item. So if it's in this industry, if it's outside this industry, but where do you need to go to find the next level of the best? Because you always need to be upping your game. And if you're not upping your game, someone is going to surpass you. You're going to get comfort. Comfort is the cancer of economic success. You need to stay uncomfortable. You need to stay finding that best.
Yeah, and quick note on that: the best is not a destination, right? So you can never say, "Hey, I've arrived at the best, and I can just sit here." Really, it's like you're running at the front of the pack, and you've got to keep running. So Micah speaks to that point. Action item number 2: I would make a list of at least 10 things that you can improve on. A small thing that came into mind, Micah, as we got ready to hit record on this, both of us, without prompting, before we hit the record button, we both get this big smile, and we sit up, and we take a deep breath. Why? Because it puts us in the framework. Top performers do that, right? Tony Robbins famously has a trampoline just off stage. And before he goes on stage, he jumps up and down on this trampoline to get himself fired up and excited so he can run on the stage and get him to rip the doors off.
You do what works, right? Number 3, manage expectations from the lens of your prospects and clients. And I got to say, this is so important in being the best, is how are you managing those expectations? Easy thing. If you say you're going to call a client back, what does that mean? If your receptionist answers the phone and says, Mike is on the phone right now, he'll call you once he gets off. What expectation did get set? And now I don't know about this because I run into 6 other meetings and I called the client back at 5:30 at night. Now all of a sudden the client's pissed because they had an emergency call and I was going to call them back in the next 10 minutes, right? We failed to set clear expectations. So everything you do with a client and prospect, you must be defining those expectations, because 9 times out of 10, they've never hired a financial advisor before. They've never worked with you before. They don't know how this process is. But even if it's a client for 20 years, we still set the expectations to make sure we're all happy. We're saying, you know what, if the client calls in and the RM says, you know what, Mike is in a meeting right now. He can call you back at 4 p.m. today. The client says, you know, this is an emergency. I have to talk to Micah before noon. Great. Now we found out that how we can define success, right? If we just would have booked it at 4 p.m., the client would have been pissed because they had to have an answer by noon. Now we can redefine that. Says, great, I'll grab Mike as soon as he's out of this meeting because it's a 911 emergency.
I would say last and final action item is to take this episode and probably Monday's episode and forward it to another advisor you know, and either say, hey, I think these guys are great, we should be great like them, or I think these guys are full of crap and we should knock them off their pedestal. Either way, forward this on and say, hey, how do we up our game? How can we work together to up our game so that we can say, hey, we're the best at what we do?
I love it. And until next time, happy planning.
Happy planning.
Hold on before we go. Something that you need to know. This isn't tax, legal, or investment advice. That isn't our intent. Information designed to change lives. Financial planning can make you thrive. Start today, don't think twice. Be a better husband, father, mother, and wife. The perfect RIA